Steve Vai is a Grammy award-winning musician, composer, producer, and inventor of the Hydra, a 3-neck, 36-string beast of a guitar with steampunk attitude and endless possibilities. Steve shows just what the instrument is capable of on his newly released album, Inviolate. In this episode, John and Stewart chat with Steve about his creative process, his fantastic new record, and the inspiration and design behind the Hydra. This is part one of a 2-part interview.
You know, so much of the record, Inviolate, when I was listening to it this morning again, I had to sort of try to imagine to myself what is improvised and what is written. And I know there's melodies throughout the whole thing. And then then I'm going, oh, he's blowing here. His eyes are closed and he's just going and he's hearing the changes and then he's coming back to the melody. And what I love about that is I don't really know where that is. As a listener, I'm just going, it's all written. He knows every note of what he's playing, except it's impossible. I'm just speaking as a listener. I really don't know if it's written or improvised or where you take a liberty or...
Well, I do both, actually. If you listen to the song Sandman Cloud Mist,
yeah,
that's all pure improvising.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But if you listen to something like Little Pretty,
yeah,
that solo,
yeah,
I could never get something like that by improvising over those chords. They're death-defying,
right?
You know? And okay, so something like Little Pretty, I would create a loop of the chords and just constantly and I'd go one chord at a time for a little while because they're obtuse synthetic modes.
Yeah,
like a major scale with flat 2, flat 6, major 7ths. You know, I mean, they're really obtuse. And the solo section, you know, I wanted every chord to be a completely different neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like evoke a completely different emotional. And this is like jazz now or fusion. Yeah. But a lot of times with bad jazz and bad fusion, you get these players that, you know, are outlining what works.
It's mathematical, right?
Yeah, it's like, and it could sound great. It could sound fine, but I wanted melody. So like that whole solo is pure melody. So I sat and worked on things and then got them to the point where I could phrase them like a voice, you know? So that was that song. But then there's stuff like...
what about Candle Power?
Okay, Candle Power, that's all written. 100%.
It's such a beautiful composition. And
thank you.
The choice of... Also, you went to a different kind of sounding guitar.
Yeah.
It's much cleaner, right? And it's harmonically so beautiful that was one that I really went, he wrote every fucking note of that.
Yeah, because it can't be anything else in my mind. There's tracks that I do that I'll improvise in sections or whatever. But if you take a song like For the Love of God, that whenever I play that song, I play exactly the same way because I can't see changing anything. It's all melody.
Yeah.
I don't want to change the melody. But a song like Zeus in Chains, the solo. Mm-hmm. So that's something where I do this quite often. I'll create like a loop and I'll just keep playing over it. And I'll just tell myself, you're not going to stop until something really unique for you comes out. So if you listen to the opening riff of the solo in that song, it's very subtle. Most go over most people's head, but it's unique because it's like it's all whammy bar antics, you know. But it's like hitting a note with the bar and then raising that note and playing while you're holding the bar up and then releasing and moving back, lifting up, down, bending, pulling up, letting go, you know, all in like 8 bars. And it creates something that you never heard before. Most people never notice it, but it's fine because I get it. Right. And that's my joy. Yeah. Like that solo, that's my joy because I love doing things that I've never done that work. You know? So a lot of times what I do is I work on something until something unique comes out and then I exaggerate it. I do it and I say, okay, that's not enough. Weirder.
Right.
You know, so then you take something like Greenish Blues, which is the 7th song on Inviolate.
Yeah.
And most of that's it's improv. It's just
that I got that as well, because as soon as I heard it, I went, I looked at the title and I went, he's put blues in the title. So that implies that he may just be improvising here. That was one I thought, again, his eyes are closed and he's just playing.
Yeah,
and it's pretty great. On the album, the first like 4 or 5 tracks, you're playing bass. Have you ever gone out and gigged as a bass player? Not a thing you're interested in?
Not even remotely. I play bass out of necessity sometimes. Right. I'll do something like, so the Hydra, I played bass because it's on the guitar.
Yeah.
Zeus in Chains, I played bass because I play with a pick and I play aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the finesse of a bass player, but most bass players don't have the attack and the aggression of a guitar player.
Right.
So some songs I feel like I'm well suited to lay down the bass. So like Zeus in Chains, and then Little Pretty, I wasn't going to touch that. That required a big boy, and that was Brian Beller. And like, there's no way I would approach a song like that. Not because I can't, but because I wouldn't do it justice. And then Candle Power was me. And actually, I was planning on redoing the bass, but then I played it for Steve Miller. And he said, boy, who's that bass player? He's really good. I thought, if Steve Miller thinks it's a good bass part, I'm keeping,
That's great. When you go on the road, how many guitars do you bring?
It's according to the set list. If a song has a drop tuning,
right,
I usually have to bring 2,
right,
with that tuning, because the way my guitars are set up, they're all clamped, and you can't just use one and then just detune it and go, Right. So if I do a song that has like drop D, I got to bring 2 of those. If I do drop C, I got to bring 2 of those. If I do acoustic sets, I got to bring some acoustics. I always try to bring a spare, but usually it's hard to say.
Do you have one guitar right now that is your road? I got to have this guitar.
I'm starting to warm up a lot to my Black Onyx Pia. Usually I go for the guitar that I call Evo or Flow, and they're gems. But with the Pia, which is sort of came out a couple of years ago, it's a little bit of an evolution on the gem, just a little bit in the body design, and but that's going to probably be my main guitar. I haven't been on stage in, I don't know, it's weird. A couple of years now.
It's ironic because, people started scheduling stuff for 2022 now, and now we've got the spike, and it's been a weird time.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's at a height right now, but as far as the touring circuit goes, there's some states that are still kind of like locking down all sorts of things, and then there's states that are pretty easy to navigate, and then there's some that just it's like there's nothing happening.
Right.
They don't have any mandates, nothing, So, but it makes it really difficult, because if you go on tour and somebody in the band or crew gets it and you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, that means you're paying for hotels, buses, salaries while you're sitting there. And that just doesn't work. The touring world is trying to figure it out. Some bands are just like, I don't care, I'm going out.
Right.
And that's it. And some are just like, no, it's crazy. Everything's getting compromised. People aren't coming to the shows. People aren't buying tickets now.
Right.
So you got to kind of weigh all that.
Yeah.
But I tell you this, us musicians are a very resilient group of people, and we figure it out.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yep.
Right on. And so what was the year and a half, almost 2 years of not being on the road? And obviously you were probably in your studio most of the time making this record. You made it very productive. Were there benefits that came out of not being on the road and having all these other obligations?
One of the things that I've practiced, I didn't discover it until probably about 12 years ago. And that's that there's a lot of different things going on in our life, and we judge them when we don't really know anything about the meaning of them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is I think everything that happens to me is in my best interest, whether I see it that way or not. And I believe that to be true for all of us. We fight those things in our head, but when you feel that to be true, you start looking in situations for how they can benefit you, how they can serve you. It's a shift from looking at how they can hurt you. It's a simple shift, but it's the greatest shift a person can make, you know?
Right.
And for me, that was really helpful because I accomplished a lot.
Yeah. Was this record all done during that period?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
A lot of musicians figured out different ways to do things. You know, like I was sending tracks to people, and that was fantastic. Like I sent Candle Power to Terry Bozzio, and
Amazing.
I wasn't there when he recorded it, and he just sent back something that is one of my favorite things on my whole record.
Right.
Great.
Is that drum performance,
Yeah.
Terry, you know? And then I sent stuff to Vinny Caliuta,
Right.
Yeah.
and you know, so that worked out really well.
Yeah.
That's great. That's also an interesting thing about not being in the room and then getting something back that you really love. And then you
Right.
go, it's a good thing I wasn't in the room.
Yep. And I
But
knew
also-
that you can do that with some musicians.
Yeah, right.
I was
picked
going to
the-
say, because
yeah.
honestly, with those two guys, I
Yeah.
mean,
What are you gonna do?
yeah.
It's
So-
like there's a song on the record, Apollo in Color, and the bass player is Henrik Linder. I've been following this guy for a while. He's a beast. He's just a total beast. And when I did Apollo, I'm listening because the song kind of can tell you who's the best for it. And I said, I got to get Henrik. And I sent him the track, and he was willing to do it. And he just sent me back that track, and I'm like, you know.
That's a great track
outstanding.
also. You know, I had a question about that one. I had a hard time differentiating guitars from synths. Are there synths on there?
Not many.
Or right, because the guitar sounds are so transformative that some of those sounds didn't even sound like guitars to me.
Well, you see the back wall,
Yeah.
all those little hanging string instruments.
Oh yeah.
I collect
Ah.
little string instruments, and I
Right.
got like 12 of them. And I decided for Apollo, I was going to take them all and use every one of them. So
Wow.
on that song, you're hearing things like a saz, an oud, a banjo, a dobro, a ukulele, a cavaquinho, you know.
Yeah, I definitely heard panned like ukulele in spots and then it'd go away and cool
Yeah,
stuff
just
like that.
I just
Really
did
good.
it for like little note
Yeah.
textures.
Yeah. Little tastings, as it were.
Yeah.
So Steve, speaking of string instruments, you mentioned your one-of-a-kind invention, Hydra. Can you tell us how this came to be?
So I was watching this Mad Max movie years ago, and there was this one scene where they're going through the desert, and the guy is strapped to the front of this truck playing a guitar, and it was really cool. I mean, like this, I'm looking at this guitar, and I'm going, "Wow, man, these guys in Hollywood, they build some crazy stuff." You know, I got an idea, and right at that moment, the hologram of the idea for the song "Teeth of the Hydra"
Yeah.
was just there. And
Yeah.
I can explain what the idea was, but it'll take me much, much, much longer to explain it than the actual download that I received.
Right.
And to explain the download, it would sound something like this. I know I'm going to create a guitar with 3 necks that just looks completely wild, and it's going to have harp strings, and I'm going to create a piece of music, and I could see what I was going to do, you know, not I didn't know exactly what it was, but the whole thing just came, and I knew it was going to be heavy, and I knew what I wanted the guitar to be, and I knew that I wanted it to have a great melody, you know. So the entire thing was like, woof, just like that, and then you got to unpack it. So we're all doing this. It's like, aha, I'm going to design a multi-effects unit, and it's going to have this, and I don't know how. But I know I could figure it out. Everybody gets them. Chefs get them. People that are organizing things, you know, we all get them. They're built for us. And you know that they're built for us because they come with the feeling of enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm. You allowed 5 years or so for, like, if we're talking specifically about the Hydra,
Yeah.
that was, you didn't let it go. You just
No,
stayed.
it took that long.
Right.
But I was chipping away because first I wrote down kind of the elements that I wanted. And I was into steampunk stuff at the time. So I sent a bunch of examples of that. And I said, here you go. What do you got? So that took a little time. And then the Ibanez designers in Japan, they just went nuts. They saw this. They lit up.
Right.
Their inspiration meter went boom, and they were just on it, and they went far above and beyond. They sent me a rendering of the Hydra, and I just thought, what? You're gonna build that, and it's I'm gonna build it.
It really does look like Mad Max, though. It's you know what I mean? Like, now that you mentioned that, I could totally get it. It's like really amazing. Yeah,
it's cool.
And your inspiration, was it just something for yourself? Were you thinking, this is a guitar that I know I want to use and I can make records with, or whatever you're going to do with it, which obviously you used on the first cut, but were you thinking other people could enjoy access to it? You were just thinking for yourself.
Yeah, because it's a highly technical instrument. Right. That you can't build that for public consumption. It'd be way too expensive. That thing it's got 12 string that's half fretless. It's got a 7 string. It's got a 3/4 inch bass neck that's half fretless. It's got 13 harp strings. It's got a whole guitar synthesizer section. It has piezos. It's got sustainers. It's got sample and hold aspects to it. It's just a beast, and
will you take it on the road?
Yeah, I want to take it out there and kick ass. It's hard.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out how to negotiate the thing standing up. When I recorded, it was on a stand. But when you hear that song, all the bass, all the guitar, all the 12 string, and all the harp, that's all the Hydra in one performance. Kind of like juggling chainsaws.
That song was the first song I listened to, and the sound of that guitar is huge. And it's big. It's in the middle of the mix. It just is so powerful. And yet you can hear the rest of the band great. But it still is such a massive sound. I was like...
It was so hard. That was the hardest mix I've done in years, because I was hell-bent on making the Hydra the only instrument on the track, with the exception of the drums. And some keyboards and some dragons. But so because when you write a song, usually you get the bass thumping and then you overdub things, but the Hydra, everything had to be linear. It was very difficult to do two things at what you can't, and it's a 3/4 inch bass neck. So I couldn't get the real low end out of it. I was using subharmonic filters and all sorts of stuff to try to get that bottom end. That was the hardest thing. And then with the big 7 string, the big, and there's also like a 12 string going on, and the harp strings, and they get buried if you're not careful, Right. So that was a tough mix.
But it comes across great, because it sounds massive, but not like so massive that you didn't hear everything else. And that's a pretty big accomplishment. You know what I mean? The fact that it can sound huge, but still be clear and big, and everything else it comes across really great. But I'm curious about the harp strings. Mm-hmm. Like, do you just tune them in regular tuning? Can you do different tunings with them? How do they react?
You can tune them differently. And you want me to show? You want me to go?
Yeah, that'd be great. Are we going into the lair of the Hydra?
Going into the lair of the Hydra. Where the golden fleece lives.
You got any guitars?
Yes.
Whoa.
Wow. Holy shit.
There she is.
That is
unbelievable. So the harp is down by the bridges, right?
Yeah, here, let me turn it on. Wow. So it's kind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
That's basically the concept, you know?
yes. So where's the 7th string? The 7th
Right.
string is the middle one, and what's the 7th string? It's a lower.
I've got it tuned to a low A.
So A is on the bottom.
Yeah, so that,
Right.
you know, that's how I get a lot of the bottom, too.
Right. Wow.
Crazy.
And the pickup configuration, did you kind of dictate where you wanted everything?
No, because I knew what I wanted, but I didn't, when I sent in my info, I didn't know what the structure was going to look
Right.
like. That was all Hoshino.
Amazing.
So,
Wow.
That's beautiful. It really is steampunk. It's so funny.
yeah,
Like,
very steampunk.
it's unbelievable.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's a bitch to play, bro.
How much does it weigh?
Oh, it's got. You know what? I gotta find out. It's like probably upwards over 50 pounds.
So you'll just have it on stage and you'll just have it propped up and.
Well, I haven't quite figured that out. What I'm thinking, if I can't play it holding it for the first part of the tour, I'll get there. It's
Right.
Thomas Nordig created a strap, brilliant, that puts the weight of the Hydra on my hips. It's all on my hips.
Oh, great.
So it's nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
And but when you wear it, the thing's so heavy, and it doesn't go like this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oof. So like if you take a step to the right, the Hydra thinks you want to go all the way to New Jersey.
Right.
Oh, you want to go that way? You know, it's like, no. And your equilibrium is kind of knocked off.
Right.
When I recorded this piece, it was probably 8 months ago or something, you know, and I did it in sections.
Right.
So now I'm in the process of just getting through the whole thing without stopping. And once I can do that, I'll hit it until it's just perfect.
Right.
And then I'll put it on and it'll be another whole can of worms. Because everything goes, you know, but I can't practice holding it because it takes too long. I mean, your legs just give out.
What's interesting is that you really, Teeth of the Hydra is a guitar piece that you probably can't play on any other guitar. Is that right?
Yep.
So it really.
Well, let me think about that. No, you can't.
You can't.
It requires 3 necks and harp strings.
And harp strings, right.
You can play each individual part.
Right.
Right.
But you'd have to
build a Hydra.
You'd have to build a fucking Hydra.
And you watch, somebody's going to do it, I know.
Well, so you don't think that after your tour that some of your fans are going to want to, or they're going to think, I'm going to get me one of those and learn. I mean, obviously you have fans that must be really, you know, sophisticated enough to want to learn a lot of your music, but.
Well, they'd have to, I'm sure that somebody can do it if they, and like I said, I would not be surprised if many people started creating similar kinds of bizarre, well, they already exist. People are doing it. I mean, playing a 3-neck guitar is not unique. You know, I mean, there's people that do it that have the independence thing down much better than me, you know, but this is heavy. This is a heavy song. It's like a metal song. So I might assume that if somebody wanted to build that guitar, they'd have to be an absolute ace luthier. Right. They'd have to get the design because it's very technical, you know, and then they'd have to learn how to play it. Yeah. And that might happen. But
when you were talking about how to learn the actual Teeth of the Hydra, when you first wrote it, obviously you just played it, you didn't notate it. Do you have to, in order to learn it, do you just learn it by ear, sit back down?
Well, first I created the visualization. First, as we were mentioning before, first the idea came, and the idea was what I had explained. And then the visualization of actually, it was like a generalization of something like this, you know, but I knew there was a couple of things I knew. One, it had to stand alone as a piece of enjoyable music and not a gimmick, you
Right.
know. The melody had to sound as though it wasn't in no way being compromised by all the other stuff going on. And all the other stuff going on had to create a groove that supported. So it was difficult to figure out how to play a melody and the bass line, you know, and a lot of it is muting.
Right.
You know,
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you that. So things are
I had to
ringing out,
practice.
right?
You got to practice hitting something and then muting it and then taking your hand away fast enough to get to what's
Wow.
next.
Yeah.
You know? It's fun. And when I sat down to do it at first, I had no idea what I was going to do. And the first thought was, what the hell did I get myself into? Can I really do this? I mean, what are, you know, and then all the fear, you know, that I was talking about before was just, oh, who do you think you are doing this? You know, of course, people are going to think, sure, Vai can do that. He's got Ibanez building anything he wants, but what is he going to do with it? You know, what are you going to do with it? So that lasted about 5 seconds. And then the other voice came in, the stronger voice that seems to usually come in whenever I'm plaguing myself with fearful thoughts. And the voice says, shut the fuck up and just do it. You know you got this. Shut up and just do it. Just do it. You know you got it. If the voice said, you don't have this, then that's easy. Then I go do something else.
Right.
Right.
You know, but you got the same voice, you know. You just, I can do this. What are you worried about? I
tell myself to shut the fuck up constantly.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up and go back to work.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Focus, enjoy, and just do it. And then sure enough, I'm like, okay, yes, sir. And then it just happens.
I would actually like to see somebody notate it and see what a score, because it would look uniquely like any other. We've never seen a score that would look like that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I work with Hal Leonard and they always release folio books of my records. And I always make sure that they're correct, you know, to the best of my ability. I used to write them myself, but they just take too long. And I just created a stem for the Hydra for the transcriptionist. And I told him, you know, 12 string, 7 string neck, so that it will have 4 stabs.
Wow.
I pity the motherfucker that ever tries to sit down and play it.
Right. That's so funny.
Thank you. Pity me. I would be that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I am that motherfucker.
Is this the first time that you've recorded your own record yourself?
No, I recorded. I've pretty much written, produced, mixed every one of my records. I've always had a studio, and I like engineering. I always liked it. I love gear. I've always been fascinated with gear. I love to understand the stereo real estate and decorate it appropriately. Right. You know, it's great.
Love it. Love it. Yeah.
Architecture.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a form of architecture.
Yep. The record's awesome.
Thank you.
And the tour is going to be great. Whenever you come to our towns, we're going to come out and see you.
I'll be here in the fall.
We're going to bring our friends.
Great. You got it. That sounds great.
Steve will be on tour in the U.S. in support of Inviolate September 28th through December 3rd, 2022. Head over to vi.com for tickets and more info. And stay tuned for the second part of Steve's interview, where we go in depth on Steve's inspiration, motivation, and philosophy in music and more.
Me and Stewie want to thank all you gear clubbers for listening to this crazy podcast we do. If you can, leave a review on iTunes. It really makes a difference. And don't be shy. We love hearing from you guys on the social media at Gear Club Podcast. Don't forget to go to gearclubpodcast.com for Spotify playlists, links and photos for the episodes, and my favorite hot sauce of the month.